Tune in to the Social Impact Show with Samm Marshall, where we spotlight change makers and their inspiring journeys.
It's the sounds of glass animals and heat waves. Thank you for joining us. It's the Social Impact Show with me, Samm Marshall. And as you know, we bring the brightest and the smartest people to talk to you about how they think about just the day-to-day things, you know. Not to say you're not. Obviously, we're in your company, so thank you very much. We appreciate. Every Tuesdays, it's the Wealth Zen with Charmaine Soobramoney. You're going to hear this voice all the time. And what I love about Charmaine is, let me start with the compliments, because then I think it makes for a better session. She's busy high-fiving pillow. Don't be silly, man. What I love about Charmaine is that, you know, she really gets to think about impact on people. And I know that's your mission in life. It's your purpose. It's every message between you and I. Whenever you end of a conversation, you go love and light to you. That's your thing. And I know that's what you're spreading. Good morning, Charmaine. How you doing?
I'm fabulous, Sam. Good morning, and good morning to our listeners.
And wow.
And happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. And the donuts. You really know how to bribe people, eh? You know how to smooth. You know how to win people over and make friends.
That was not bribery, Sam.
Okay.
You insisted that I bring in donuts.
I was trying to give you a compliment on air. Now you're telling people you were forced to bring donuts.
And well, you have to thank my husband for going and buying this morning. He was incredible.
Mr. Soobramoney, thank you very much for the donuts. And Mpilo and I were lucky enough, we got the Kit Kat donuts.
No, it wasn't the Kit Kat, it was the bar one.
Oh, it was only two, and we grabbed them first. Okay, so we started this conversation around wealth. We talked about compound interest when we unpacked the W. We're now moving our way through the word wealth, and we're at the E now.
Sam, we are. We're actually going to, and I think the E stands for equity, as you know, Sam.
Yes.
Okay, and before we go into the equity aspect, I do want to actually thank our listeners for actually sending me the email. So I got 8 emails last week, people needing some clarity and some support. So clearly people are listening, not here in South Africa, but also internationally. So 2 of them were, one was from the US and the other one was from Bangladesh, actually.
Oh, wow, that is so amazing.
It is.
So between the meals and running around, they had time to listen to you.
I guess so, right?
Kudos to them. And you're going to choose the 2 and you'll work with them?
3 actually, but what I'm thinking is, I can handle 8, so...
Oh, wow.
So why not?
What a flex. I can handle 8.
The reality is, if people are keen to learn and the people want to taking accountability, and if we can actually give them time,
help as many people as we can.
Why don't we help as many people as we possibly can?
Yeah, I agree
and that's
with you.
the mission, isn't it? To make South Africa great, and even the world, because we're already having the influence that we need to.
And I think South Africans are deeply resilient. We don't always pat ourselves on the back, but I think we have overcome so much, and we're still a fairly friendly bunch.
Oh, we certainly are, actually. Sam, so talking about resilience, so let's dive into the whole equity stuff, right? South Africans are very familiar with the word equity. It's gender equity, it's employment equity. Equity is something that we kind of grew up with.
Yes.
However, I'm not going to talk about equity externally. And I'm not even going to talk about shares, like equity in a business and the stock exchange. Today, I want to talk about equity in the perspective of kindness and kindness to self.
Wow.
I like when you go, wow. Because I want our listeners to think about how kind we are to ourselves. Because
we're not that kind to ourselves.
We are horrible when it comes to ourselves. We are so judgmental and we are so critical of oneself. And what we tend to do is rob ourselves of our time and our energy on focusing on how we could progress and move forward.
A lot of us are very hard on ourselves.
We do. We have ugly conversations with ourselves and we overthink. And when we overthink, I want people to think about this. Do we overthink about all the positive things that happen to us? No. We overthink about all the negative things, the mistake we made, the wrong word we used in this interview, or how we showed up and what we could have done differently. The fact of the matter is we're only humans. We are not robots. And therefore, it's okay for us to make a mistake, but don't live there. So the reason I think, and you spoke about resilience, and when we are kind to ourselves, Sam, we are able to build our inner resilience.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of why we need to be kind to ourselves. And when we're kind to ourselves, we can be kind to others. And the whole goal in life is to actually pour kindness out there to make our world a better place. So, Sam, I think I've made my opening remarks, so you can have a go at me and ask me anything that you need to.
No,
with
but
regard to why.
I think it's a fair statement to say. Right now, there's somebody in a car who's been incredibly hard with themselves this morning. There's a parent who is not, in their own minds, not being the best parent they can be. There's a partner right now questioning the contribution they're bringing to that relationship. There's a man right now, and as we know, men suffer really higher suicidal rate. Men really take this idea of kindness on themselves very, very hard, because there's just so much other stuff stacked on them. Not to say women don't have challenges, but if we understand the very traditional role of men providing and men being in that spaces, and even how men communicate with each other, we are not kind to each other, and I don't know, where does that start, Charmaine? Is that the unkind word from a parent? Is that peer? Is that social media? Is that community? Why are we unkind to ourselves?
I think it's a combination of everything. The pressures that men actually face to be able to provide, and the inability to do so in their heads, creates that feeling of inadequacy, and therefore they are not kind to themselves. And it does have ripple effects into the family, right? So as soon as you can actually be, just stop, pause, ask yourself, why is it that you're having these negative conversations in your head? How could you do it differently? And if you can just take a breath, breathe, understand the why, and then having this positive conversations with yourself, like, you know what, I've made a mistake, how could I change
And
the
that's
narrative?
for men and women.
For everybody, actually.
Yeah, it's for everybody.
For every single person. And I believe in giving people second chances.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
That's very interesting, because there's power for both you and that person.
Absolutely.
If you give them a second chance.
And there's also power in
Also depends on the challenge ahead of you.
No, irrespective, actually. I give people second chances.
Irrespective of the crime.
Irrespective. And one day I'll give you a story on the types of people I've given second chances to and why. It's not a
You are a
conversation.
much better person than I. I think
we-
it depends for me on what the transgression is. If it's very severe, we might have to go to the top of the mountain to find Lord Jesus Christ.
But you know what? This is the Wealth Zen. This is the platform to have these real conversations and pour out there as to why it's important to give people second chances, and why we need to master the art of forgiveness.
Can I say this, and can I say something silly, and I'm happy to be corrected? Equity does not mean 50-50.
Oh, no, it doesn't, actually.
Right.
Equity...
Yeah, please go ahead.
Equity is understanding that we all start from a different platform and a different place. And with that understanding, you give different levels of support.
Yeah, I wanted us to clarify that. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, you give different levels of support depending on where you've started from. Equality is giving everybody the same opportunity. And if you look at our history, especially here, but not just here in South Africa, globally, okay, there is vast amounts of inequity. And equity is the drive towards giving people the opportunities they deserve to be able to move forward in a way that matters to all of us, actually.
So equity in relation to a partner, a friend, a family, a business partner, oneself, situational, is not an okay to be treated as a doormat, or to constantly be the one who extends the olive branch. Equity, as you're saying, is attributing the right amount of resources or engagement depending on that person, because there are people in your life who are toxic, but in the equity formula, you give that person only what you can give. Is that what you're saying?
Equity is just understanding where they're coming from. So you need to, and give them the resources that they deserve, or they need, actually. Because let's be honest, I've been privileged on a number of levels. I grew up in a home with both parents, and not all South Africans are beneficial to that. I've been provided for. There's a lot that I'm ahead in comparison to others. So looking at it from that perspective, you realize that I'm privileged in those circumstances. And how do we give support to single parent homes or children that didn't have a dad and a mom to be able to move forward in a way to go, okay, let's provide, because my needs are different to theirs. They would need more than I would. So that's what equity is about, Sam. Talking about toxic people, there's a reason I give people 2 chances. You cross the boundary and then you're out of my life. That's it.
Yeah.
Because my well-being or your well-being matters. And if you surround yourself with people that are not willing, are given the resources to, are not willing to change the narrative and always playing the victim, then I'm not going to be your savior.
Yeah, and also to a level, there's equity in that too, because they will get X amount of your time or no time at all.
They do benefit from the resources I'm prepared to give in light of, and it's always fair.
Okay.
It may not be fair from their perspective, but there's an element of giving.
Yeah.
And there's an element of taking, but there's an element of no applying and continually choosing to be enabled rather than being able to learn so they can fish. They just want the fish, some people.
When you look at the principles of equity, and I'm happy to be corrected here as well, is that when you look at a relationship based on business and you look at the proportionality in relationship to equity, it is on the value that the person brings into that existing business, and therefore there will be some equity given to them, right?
Sure.
Based on the value that they bring.
Perceived value sometimes.
Perceived value.
Sometimes it's actually number based. It very depends on what the relationship is.
How do you take that business concept into your dynamics? So, for example, that perceived value, I mean, let's not use parents, because I think there is that relationship for many. But maybe a new friendship, maybe a partner. Some of us give more than what we get. Some of us take more than what we give. And then some of us right now are feeling that I give too much and the other person gives too little. And then you have the challenge of trying to resolve it in your head, but you're unhappy. How do you find that balance if let's, based on this, the equity that you give or the perceived value somebody brings into your life, you are not a good judge of character. But you know innately the relationship makes you unhappy.
Sure. And that's why I wanted to dive into the whole concept of equity within self.
Yeah. Because
once you can able to understand you, be more kind to you, understand that the value that you bring, and you just build you as an asset. It's very, very easy, Sam, or it becomes easier to be able to look externally and go, how do I show up with this relationship? How do I navigate this relationship? And you have the tools. Your self-worth is so heightened that you don't have issues saying no, and you don't have issues moving through relationships that don't serve or are not mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
And that's why I say equity to self, kindness, understanding who you are, it builds resilience. It improves your mental well-being. Trust me. When you start having those positive dialogues, it builds resilience, your mental state of mind. You just pointed out the levels of depression. Why is that? Because people are so, generally, the world is so outward focused instead of building the fairness and kindness and possibilities within. I'll give you an example. Having a false narrative, not a false narrative, when you think you're not worthy enough, right? Yeah. So over 20 years ago, I was asked to speak to CEOs. It was like the likes of Tace Detroit, MD of Coronation, Greg Fury, Alan Gray. And it was like I was younger then, and the story I was telling myself, what the hell am I going to tell these CEOs
that
know everything?
Yeah.
And in those days, I mean, it was predominantly, generally, white people in the room, and I have nothing. I'm not threatened or anything by them, but the knowledge I've said myself is like I don't have anything of value to give.
Yeah.
I showed up on the day,
which is half the battle.
Yes, no, I did show up on the day, but I kind of lost my voice, but not quite. It was like I battled to
Be able to articulate yourself.
myself and share my message, because in my head I already.
So did you look schizo on stage?
I didn't look schizo, but I looked like I was delivering my message, but I was so nervous. But I was unable to actually articulate myself, and for the longest time I was embarrassed. I didn't know how to navigate the spaces when I saw them, and then I had to click out of it and go, girl, you have value to offer. It was a mistake. Get over it and don't live there.
But
and those are lessons that actually help when you are able to have these
internal
dialogues.
Yeah.
It actually helps you move into space. Now I talk to you with a little bit more ease, Sam, don't I? So you have to
You're almost cocky when you talk now.
you have to go through some of these highs and lows, have your self-talk, talk yourself up, do the work, and then start showing up.
Yeah.
You know, I still, but you know, like...
But I find that once you have your inner voice, right? Once you have the internal dialogue, once you do the reflection, once you are willing to walk the journey with oneself, as you said, build equity within oneself, be more kind, I think it becomes harder for people to knock you off your perch, because people can try and bump you. But when you know your value, to your point, when you understand where you are in your life, what journey you're on, what person you want to be, and becoming the person is not the end destiny, it's a continuous journey, right?
Absolutely.
Once you know all those things, it's very, very difficult. You show other people up in a different way. The people who never liked you, they hate you more now, because you're a lot more self-confident, you're a lot more aware. The people that was kind of mid-journey, wasn't 100% sure whether they like you or not, they definitively get off the fence, and they decide they like you or they don't. And the people that have always liked to become your cheerleaders. And I think once you know who you are, you actually get rid of the riffraff.
And you know, Sam, it doesn't matter where your background is. We all have value. It doesn't matter where you've come from. We have value.
All of us have value.
If you don't see it and you don't build it, that's on you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And once you show up demonstrating that you have value, not a victim, ready to move forward and grow self, community, country, and the world. I'm not saying we all need to change the world, but just self and community. The right people will align to support you.
You know, it's so interesting. Yesterday I was standing in the line at the retailer that will not be named, and there was this lady, right? And I don't know why, but in the past it used to annoy me when I would stand in the till and somebody would walk up and they would go, "Good morning, how are you? And are you great?" And I thought it was often quite patronizing for the consumer to say that to the person at the till, because this felt to me kind of very fake, disingenuous and stuff. But yesterday I looked at it from a very different perspective, where this person was like, "Good morning, how are you? And how's things?" But quite loud. And I appreciated it yesterday. And I don't know if it was a shift. It was just this act of kind of just being bubbly and being intentional. And this person was just like, "Good morning, how are you doing? How's things?" And the teller was like, "Oh, it's okay, you know, blah, blah, blah." And you kind of realize that was such an amazing act of kindness. And that used to irritate me, because I might have been Grumpy Smith at some point.
I know. Grumpy Smith was your middle name.
But I really love the fact that there was this woman and they were having a conversation, and it was brief. It didn't need to be 5 hours, but the fact that somebody showed up in such a great way lightened my mood.
And just positive energy and being bubbly, it's contagious, actually.
Yeah.
Provided you're willing to accept it. And the world needs a lot of that. And when you're kind and when you love yourself, and love is an action, it's not a feeling, or self-love, you show up differently, actually.
Yeah.
And the world is depressing as is. There's a lot. There's wars, there's issues. I mean, you know for a fact that funding is being removed in certain places. So if we can show up in a way that just gives people a sense of hope and possibilities, we will move the dial. We don't need external people. If all of us are intentional, and today we go, what is it that we could do to pour more kindness in the world? And it's not about just money. It's about that smile. It's about that hug. It's asking somebody genuinely.
But it has to be an internal thing
first,
that reflects externally.
Absolutely. Because if you're moody, grumpy, angry with the world, you're going to project that, right? And I've seen that.
And there are many people, I now know a fair amount of people that go, I've got cause to be angry and grumpy. And I
We
said,
all do, trust me.
and at some point I go, that's interesting, and I like that you feel that being grumpy and angry is your disposition, but that ages you faster, that mentally damages you, that affects your health, and eventually leaves you in a spot where you actually don't want to be. Most people don't want to be alone, by the way, irrespective of what they say. And I'm not saying whether you're surrounded by dogs, cats, animals, but most people don't want loneliness as the final stage of their life. But yet we set ourselves up for that. We make ourselves unattractive, and I don't mean unattractive in a sexual, physical way. We make ourselves unattractive from a personality perspective, where people don't want to hang around you. Because at some point there's no internal dialogue to say, well, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but we've heard your victim story 1,000,000 times. We know you're a victim, we get it. And there are legitimate victims who have done amazing work to get over their issues. And then there are people that have just been beaten down by, I can't get a job, I don't have money. And so it changes the entire...
It's, Sam, that's real, right?
Yeah,
But
no,
that
it's
is-
real.
It is real.
But it's everybody's challenge.
But when you show up differently, and when you put more positive, and I think I've shared this story with
Yeah.
you, Sam. There was a woman that used to do traffic ages ago, but her energy was incredible. How to get a job? Because of the fact, just in the street, connecting, whatever, driving past every day, just observing.
Just watching that
so
smile.
consistency, that smile, whatever, was, it just wants you to help.
You know, I said this to and I know I know we're kind of speaking in a general term. Some people are going through a lot more, but the ask at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're climbing Kilimanjaro or or walking over a molehill. You still have to do the work.
Absolutely.
Right? It doesn't matter what the challenges are. You, at the end of the day, are central to it. So if you are going through the most at the moment, and your argument is, well, people don't understand, whether they understand or not, you're still going to have to wake up tomorrow and do the work. There's nothing else. There's nobody can sweep in through the roof. It's not Santa Claus pick you up, get rid of all your problems, and then tomorrow morning they're all gone. You're gonna have to do the work. If you have a problem with a partner, you're gonna have to do the work. If you hate your job, you're gonna have to do the work.
Yeah.
If you don't like the life you live, you're gonna have to do the work. It's still all on you.
Yeah. And there's always something to be grateful for, Sam. So if you can actually just express
I'm
gratitude.
grateful for the donuts you brought this morning.
If you could just wake up every day and go, you know what, it's great to be alive, or today's, that positive self-talk. And I'm not just talking from a book that I've read. I'm talking from flippant experience. I was depressed. I know what it is to be go through challenging phases, but still showing up in a way that's going to go, you know what? It's not that bad. If I'm breathing, if I still have all my limbs, I can still make
and do the work. If you need help, if you need help from a psychologist, psychiatrist, a community life coach, go and invest in yourself so that you can be a better person. I think this idea that, and I mean, as somebody who goes to church every Sunday and sits with my family, I understand the religious benefits of understanding the higher power, the calling and stuff. But if you need physical intervention, if you need an actual life coach, an actual person, sitting on your hands is not going to change your situation. And I think people need to really understand it. That's why people like David Goggins, when he says get up and run, that's why they resonate. Andrew Tate, you might argue with him, but when he says to young men, Dr. Robin Peterson, when he says, you've got to make up your bed, and there are simple things in life that you have to do. The reality is we are actually not that different from each other.
Oh, we're all the same, actually.
We all have to pull down our
human
pants.
beings first. That's it.
First.
That's it.
We all eat, we all want to sleep, we all drink water, we all,
have the same sort of
routine, habits. We all want love in one way or another. Some of us are a little bit more extreme than others, but the reality is we're all very similar. And so this idea that your problems are so unique, so different, that you're offended by even this level of advice. There's somebody right now who's so deeply offended, you don't get me. But imagine I put 1 million of you in the room that say, you don't get me. Isn't there 1 million of you now in the room?
The reality of being able to socialize or connect with other people, and just from ability to share, you get to realize that your hardship or pain is not as bad when you listen to others as well. And therefore it's important to actually have a community of people sometimes to interact with, to give you perspective and a sense of, my life's flipping easy in comparison to X, Y, Z. And that isolation does not do you any justice from a growth, development, self-kindness perspective. But that internal dialogue and the ability to speak, it will help you immensely. And I'm not discounting these people that go through depression that needs medical intervention. And there's a group of them.
But go and get it.
Yes. There's a need for them to do it. But a majority of us that's suffering to depression as a result of engagements with social media or what the world seems to think that you should be, we can actually click ourselves out of it through action, connecting with people, and understanding narratives around you, and finding the opportunities and acting on it. And we fail to do it sometimes, I must be honest.
And there's just too many social experiments at the moment where you see, for example, I follow probably 1,000 platforms. And one of the very famous experiments is mice. If you have a community of healthy mice integrating with each other, what the scientists did was they laced water with cocaine in one and another tube with just water. Because the mice were socially active, they were engaging, they hardly ever went to the water laced with cocaine. They only drank the water, the clean water. And what it says is that we as creatures we're about engagement, connectivity, human interaction. And so if you surround yourself, whether it's your brother, your cousin, your uncles, and they're a proactive part of your life, if you've got a sounding board, if you can deal with somebody, if you've got a mom. You know, my mom, when she was alive, amazing lady, she said to me one day when I came home, a girl broke up with me, and I was beside myself, because it was the love of my life, as you believe when you're in your teens. I was overcome with emotion, straight out of a Shakespeare play. I was on the floor dragging myself. My world has come to an end. My mom just said to me, it can always get worse.
Oh, yeah.
It can always get worse. Imagine this happened to you, and imagine that happened to you. Imagine you found out this, and tomorrow you're in a car accident. And so she just went down this rabbit hole, and then by the time...
She gave you perspective.
And she was saying, like, okay, so you don't have a job, but you could also have you could also be terminally ill. And then if you're terminally ill, you could also lose it. And so we just kept on going down this rabbit hole. And then eventually at the end of it, you go, okay, I still miss her, but I feel a little bit better now.
It's just having somebody to support you and love you and show you your worth.
But I still miss her, mommy. It's just like, she's like, it can get worse.
Aww.
Yeah, no, but
bless her soul, Sam.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Look, I love this engagement. I think it helps us to put our lives in perspective, and I think it's important.
Oh, absolutely. Sam, you know, I think we need to normalize men saying I love you to each other.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And
shouldn't Pilo and I say I love you to each other now? I
think you should, actually.
I think it would be very uncomfortable. We only know each other for like 2-3 months.
But you know
and
what?
He hasn't even taken me out on a date yet. So.
Sam, let's be real. I walk in here, greet everybody, give them a hug, and they think I'm flipping crazy. But it's been my third session, really.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I love this. Black Petrus was like, people think I'm crazy, but they appreciate the connection, the love.
It does help if you bring donuts.
No, it's even before I was giving donuts.
Can I just get, maybe my advice to everybody is walk around with a box of donuts and just hand it out to everybody.
Okay, no, we need to be real though, guys. The point I'm actually making, even though Sam's speaking on the donuts that he so wanted, is you need to have these positive dialogues with yourself. The world is depressed already. You don't need to actually contribute to your own depression. Self-talk, believe in your worth, and just show up in a way. Because if you can give kindness to yourself, it becomes so much easier to give the world kindness, because the world needs it. And you know, I've read this a long time ago, and it stuck with me. The blind can see kindness. The deaf can hear kindness. And it's a universal language. Don't gift it to others before you gift it to yourself.
919 FM, your morning of impact. Samm Marshall shares uplifting stories and conversations with people making Johannesburg and the world a better place.